just looking at the Eastern Conference, and we talked about this earlier in the podcast, it's a logjam. Specifically at the top of the Atlantic Division, you have three of the top five teams in the league in one division. The Metropolitan Division has some damn good teams. If you look at the Eastern Conference right now, the playoffs are set. There is not a single team sitting out of a playoff spot right now in the Eastern Conference that I think has a hope in hell of making the postseason. But, Lepore, when you look at the non-playoff teams in the East, okay, there are some teams, like you have Philadelphia, who was supposed to be good. They've had a ton of injuries. They've had a terrible season. The Habs have obviously been terrible. The Senators have had another disappointing season. The Leafs just played the Red Wings, another non-playoff team in the East. Looking at all these non-playoff teams in the Eastern Conference, which team do you think has the best future over the next 3 to 5 years, let's call it? If you had to pick one team, who would you be of these non-playoff teams?
One I'll pick out, almost kind of their anomaly. Are the Islanders kind of like, with everything they've dealt with, unfair to really judge this season? I think more, it's like when I look at these teams and the spot they're in, let's face it, in today's NHL, like who's kind of there on purpose, and where were all these teams' expectations? Like you mentioned Philadelphia, like definitely not them. Definitely not them. Of course, Montreal coming off a Stanley Cup final, definitely not them. This was not their plan. And now you kind of look at it and think, where are they going to go? Ottawa's had some bad luck this year with COVID and injuries. And some guys have had really good seasons. Like there was some fear with Tkachuk after he signed that deal. Maybe he got paid too much money, but the guy's been great, man. Like Sens fans have been really happy with his performances. He's putting up points. He's fighting. I mean, you can debate all day long if you want him doing that, but the guy's doing what he's supposed to do. Batherson, we talk about good contracts. I think that Batherson deal is going to be one of the best deals in the NHL in a few years. Like, I don't know if the kid got bad advice or something, like on the amount he signed for. I don't know. Or maybe he, didn't give himself enough credit. The Devils are young. That's one. Columbus is just boring, so I'm not going to talk about them. The Red Wings are, the best right now of those teams, and they have Yzerman running the ship. So you can make an argument for them. If I have to pick one, though, who would I want to be? You know what, man? I'm going to say it's tough. I'm going to say Detroit. I'll go with Detroit because like they have their star player in Larkin. They have some good young players. And I think at the end of the day, when you're judging the future of certain teams, a lot of it's organizational. So like, what do we know for sure? I think we can pick out a lot of bad things within these organizations that are near the bottom. But with Detroit, it's like, okay, you have a new building. You have the Ilitch family with deep pockets, who's always been willing to spend and commit to winning with the Red Wings. And then you have Steve Yzerman running the ship. So things can change with any team from year to year. But those three things, I know for sure. And then you go into it, they're an original six team. I mean, historically, guys had want to play when Detroit was winning. People wanted to play in Detroit. It's a great place to be a winner. So I'll go with them. And even like call me excited about it because recency bias. Like I loved what I saw from Dylan Larkin. Like that guy, to me, there's that like fine line in the NHL where a guy's a really good player, but you can ask yourself if he's like your best player or one of your best players, is that a problem? Meaning like he's
That's
great,
fair.
but I think Larkin, that's probably where I would have put Larkin before, but watching him recently and then getting it like shoved in my face the other night playing against my team. And like, we're hearing his name a lot. I feel like he's one of those players, like we're hearing his name a lot more than we used to. Like you watch highlights and all that, he scores a great goal or multi-goal games. So to me, he's hit that echelon of players where that guy's a star player and he can be one of your best players on the team and you're okay. So I'll go the Red Wings, man. Detroit Red Wings. So why not add it to the division too, right? Why not have that?
This Atlantic Division gauntlet. It's insane. But It's hard to disagree with what you said about Detroit, especially with Steve Yzerman running the show and some of the young talent they have on that team, like Lucas Raymond.
Great
who
player.
right now has a very good chance to win Rookie of the Year. And his teammate, Moritz Seider, I mean, those two guys are both going to finish top 3 in Rookie of the Year voting this year, most likely.
Yeah.
That team has a bright future, along with Dylan Larkin, who's not old by any means. He's still a young player. Tyler Bertuzzi, we mentioned some of the things that might be going on with that dude, but I mean, you can't deny that he's a good player. 39 points in 37 games. And they brought in Nedeljkovic in the offseason in net. So that's a team that I think has a very promising future, especially with Steve Yzerman running the show. If I had to pick another team outside of Detroit that I am still bullish on, despite not having a good season, I would say it's the New Jersey Devils.
Okay, sure.
Because not only are they one of the youngest teams in the league, I just really like the talent they have on their roster. Jesper Bratt is having a career season right now, 39 points in 40 games. They obviously have Jack Hughes, who they locked up to a long-term deal. And listen, I don't know if Jack Hughes is ever going to, the dude was the first overall pick in the draft. People were comparing him statistically, at least, to some of the things that Matthews and some of the other top American players were doing in the U.S. development program and coming up through the ranks.
Yeah.
A lot of people are expecting really big things from Jack Hughes. He has not proven that yet. We've seen flashes of it from him, but we have not seen it on a consistent basis. And I know this year he's dealt with some injuries. So I would like to see him take that next step and become an elite player in this league. But one thing about the Devils, I'm looking at their goaltending this year, Lepore. They are 30th in the league in save percentage.
Oof.
So they're getting horrendous goaltending this year. Like Mackenzie Blackwood.
I was going to say he's been that bad.
He's been awful. He has an 894 save percentage in 23 games. Jonathan Bernier has not been good. They've had to play John Gillies because of some of the injuries and COVID issues they were dealing with. So their goaltending has been an absolute train wreck.
And they're still they're only a couple games under 500, right?
Right now, the Devils 15, 23, and 5.
Okay, so a little more than just a little. But yeah, when you're getting the worst goaltending in the league.
And then when you add in the fact that they have a dude like Dougie Hamilton, and even Dougie Hamilton, he's missed about 10 games this year. He's been dealing with injuries as well, but I think he's still a hell of a defenseman. So outside of Detroit, I would look to that team over the next 3 to 5 years to take a leap at some point and become a playoff team. But other than that, man, it's pretty bleak.
It's hard, man, because these people have these conversations, and even you look at the teams that, like we say, how it's so top heavy. Who do you see dropping off? Who can you legit look at and be like, this team's in their prime now or teetering on their prime? I can't really think of one. I mean, maybe you could say Pittsburgh or
Boston
Washington
potentially, just with the age of Bergeron. And
like I'd say Pittsburgh,
Marchand.
Washington, and Boston. Their best players are on the wrong side of 30. So it's like, yeah, like that could steer the wrong way. But even then, like, see how those organizations are run, and they've been consistently winning for so long. So again, those things, why would you doubt it or question it? Right? Like, these guys know what they're doing. So it's tough. It's tough. And then you look at teams like Florida, look how well that team is built. And watch, Fort Lauderdale is a great place. Guys are going to want to stay there, and you're going to get guys who want to play there, especially if they can get fans in the building, if they keep winning. Tampa, when was the last time Tampa was bad? Like, if they think of it that way. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes in the next few years.
And speaking of interesting stats, Lepore, you know who's leading the NHL in scoring right now? Jonathan Huberdeau.
You mean like points, like individual points?
Leads the league in points, 62 points in 45 games. He's 1 point ahead of Leon Draisaitl, 3 points ahead of Nazem Kadri, and 4 points ahead of Connor McDavid and Alex Ovechkin. So it's like you said,
quiet.
Man.
Yeah, that's been quiet for sure.
It's gonna be very difficult to see some of these top teams in the East take a step back. And it's funny how the tables have turned, where the Western Conference used to be an absolute gauntlet going back to the mid 2010s. And now it has completely flipped the other way. The Western Conference is not even close to the Eastern Conference in terms of the quality of teams, especially at the top. And I know the West still has Colorado and Vegas, and Minnesota looks really good this year. But the Eastern Conference, I just think, is a completely different beast.
Well, you're going to see at the end of the year what those teams in the 7 and 8 spot have in terms of points totals, and there's going to be a gap. Something just popped into my head, and we'll move on. So here's Huberdeau leading the league in points. Had there been an Olympics, Huberdeau would have been on Team Canada.
100%.
Like even like when we were making our teams months ago, we were talking about Huberdeau. I think this is a legitimate question. Would Nazem Kadri have been put on Team Canada?
I don't think so. As well,
I don't think
as
so
he's
either.
played,
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I don't think he cracks the lineup.
Yeah, I think obviously having a great year, and it's that weird thing, but like
He almost didn't even
like,
crack the All-Star team. He had to get in as the last man in.
Yeah, right. It's one of those things where you look at the Team Canada lineup. It's like, who am I taking out for Kadri? And then where am I putting Kadri? Like, because let's face it, in an Olympic tournament, it's like Kadri can't be your number 2 center. Let's say what you haven't been like the bottom chance. 6. And then there's guys who do different things better than him. So it would have been interesting to see how that one played out, like considering the season he's had. Like, you remember it was the Torino Olympics. It was Mark Savard that year. He was like top 5 in scoring, like when they made the team, and he didn't make it, and eyebrows were raised, right? Like, why was he not on the team? And I mean, that team was a total disaster, and I don't think this team would have been a disaster. So it's a little different, but interesting how we have like these internal biases about players based on our kind of confirmation bias of who they are from the past, and how it ties in on how we build a team now, regardless of how well they're playing recently.
Yeah, as much as I love Kadri, I love that he plays with an edge and he's physical and he mixes things up, and the guy's top 5 in scoring this year. I still think he would have come up short for making Team Canada.